If you have ever tried to learn CAD, you know the pattern. A multi-gigabyte download, a license page, and a machine that has to be new enough to keep up. Forge3D is a different answer to that problem, and this is the actual application running, recorded exactly as you see it. Start with the download. Forge3D is about 124 megabytes. It runs on 6 gigabytes of RAM and it runs on processors from 2015 or older. That is not a stripped down viewer or a trial mode. That is the design environment. Forge3D is free to use. Here is why that is possible. Forge3D is built on a new architecture rather than layered on top of a legacy CAD code base. There are no decades of accumulated compatibility to carry forward, so the footprint stays small and the application stays responsive on hardware that other tools have left behind. Now watch what is happening on screen. This part is the piece most people have not seen before. Forge3D has AI assistants built directly into the design workflow through a component called the Orchestra Director. It takes a goal written in ordinary language. In this case, design a robot chassis plate with 4 mounting holes, and it drives the design itself. The geometry you are watching appear was not clicked into place. It was produced from that sentence: the plate, the thickness, the mounting holes, the wheels. This is the Orchestra Director working inside the live application, and everything in this recording came out of that single instruction. Let me turn it so you can see the actual part rather than a marketing render. This is the model in the viewport. Same file, same session, rotating in real time. Design is only half of the work though. A part that looks right and behaves wrong is still a part you have to make twice. So Forge3D does physics simulation as well. This is the simulation running on the chassis you just watched get built. Not a preview and not a separate program. The solver is inside the same application on the same model, and the motion you are seeing is the result being computed as it plays. Forge3D also does circuit simulation. 3D design, physics, and circuits in one environment. For anyone building something that both moves and switches, that matters more than it sounds. It removes the export step between the mechanical side of a project and the electrical side of it. And it removes the moment where those two versions quietly stop matching each other. Materials are part of that same model. Steel, aluminum, a BS, wood. The part updates in place and the simulation runs against what you chose. Then there is the last step, which is where a lot of free tools stop. Forge3D exports production files directly from the application. The design does not end its life inside the software. It leaves as something you can actually manufacture. So that is the whole loop, and you have now seen all of it running. Describe what you want, watch the orchestra director build it. Simulate how it behaves. Choose the material, export the production files, all of it in 124 megabytes on a machine from 2015 for free. If you have been putting off learning CAD because of what it costs or what it demands from your computer, this removes both reasons. The download is on forged3d.design. It is free and it will run on the machine you already own. One more thing worth saying plainly, because it is the part that changes how the work feels. In most CAD tools, the software is a set of instruments and you are the one who has to know which instrument to reach for. You learn the menus before you get to build anything. Forge3D shortens that. You can state the goal and the orchestra director will do the first pass for you. Then you take over and adjust what it made. That is a genuinely different starting position, especially if you are learning. You are not staring at an empty workspace trying to remember which tool cuts a hole. You are looking at a part that already exists, deciding what about it is wrong. Editing something is a much easier problem than beginning something. And because the simulation lives in the same place, you find out quickly whether your change helped. Design, test, revise, export. The whole loop stays in one window on one model with no handoff between programs where things go out of sync. It is worth being specific about who this is actually for, because free software is not automatically useful software. If you are a student, the barrier has usually been the license and the laptop. Both of those are gone here. If you are an engineer who already has a CAD seat at work, this is something you can put on a personal machine without asking anyone, and without a second license. If you are building robots, drones, enclosures, brackets, mounts, anything that has to physically exist, then the combination in this one application is the point. You can design the part, simulate how it behaves under load, simulate the circuit that drives it, and export the files that make it. That last part deserves emphasis. A design that cannot leave the software is a drawing. Forge3D exports production files directly, so what you build here goes to whatever machine you were going to use anyway. And the AI assistance is not a chat window bolted onto the side. The orchestra director operates on the model itself. It is the difference between software that can describe what you should do and software that does it and hands you the result to correct. None of this requires a new computer. 124 megabytes, 6 gigabytes of RAM, a processor from 2015, free. Everything in this video was the real application. The chassis was generated from one written instruction. The rotation was the live viewport. The simulation was the real solver, computing as it played. Nothing here was a mockup, and nothing was sped up to look better than it is. The download is on forged3d.design. If you have a project sitting in your head that you have not started because the tools were too expensive or too heavy, this is a reasonable evening to start it.